Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah Rahman Rahim. I am Ashok Garlapati from HSE E&D Team. Welcome to you all for this exclusive awareness session on KOC BBS program, Behavior Based Safety Program for E&D Drilling Business Partners. So this is going to be the exclusive session for all the drilling business partners who are here today. And this session is being conducted with the support of Occupational Health and Safety Team of HSE Group. We have with us Mr. Tariq Al-Aslawi. He is going to be the BBS trainer today. And Mr. Tariq, can you say hello to check the time, check the mic and everything?
Good morning. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Ashok, for introduction. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Excellent.
Thank you.
So, yes, thank you, Tariq. And I request Mr. Reddy or Mr. Jignesh who are on the call to admit the people who are joining. So, Tariq, you can also just admit when I'm presenting, so I may not be able to see them, everybody. So, if anybody is waiting in the lobby, we can always admit directly. So, we have got a 60 plus registrations for today from all the drilling business partners. And with that, we are going to have some sort of a introduction about this session, what we are going to do for the next 2 hours or so. So this is going to go for the 2-hour session. We will have a ergo break in between. I see that there are 2 people who opened their cameras. I request them to switch off their camera so that we will have a gallery of discussions at the end with the opening by the cameras, whoever is having. So, but at the time being, you can switch off KDC 43 and rig SP 913, I think, yeah. So please switch off your cameras. So then there will not be any distraction during that time. So somebody is raising the hand, but I don't know what exactly he wants to talk, but if you want to say quickly anything, please go ahead, unmute and go ahead. Okay, I think there are so many people attending this from the rig side. So there may be some of the people who are coming for this program first time on the virtual. It means we have been doing on the training in the conference halls, but this is virtual. We are doing it. This is a MS Teams program. Please use the this button for the camera. Of course, please switch off the camera. And the second button is for the microphone. That also you keep on the mute. During the question and answer session, you can always unmute. And we have the hand button to raise the questions. And we have the chat. During our presentation, you keep on putting in the chat boxes so that we can always understand what is your question. And you can also see this particular button for the viewing of the participants, how many participants are there or something like that. So with that, I would like to welcome you all for this exclusive session on the BBS session, Behavior Based Safety session. And on behalf of our team leader, Mr. Marjuk Al-Wataibi, we welcome you all for this session. And the purpose of this session is to, educate or make your familiarize the BBS program, particularly KOC BBS program, and how it can be implemented in all the rigs. We are also going to provide a brief background of BBS program, how, why, and this session is being conducted through a HSE movement. Then we'll also briefly talk about the significance of the KOC HSE management system very briefly. Then our HSE Group representative, senior engineer, Mr. Tariq Al-Aslawi, he is going to briefly talk about the BBS program. Then we'll also have a demonstration of the BBS entry in the MyHSSE. I know that our business partners do not have access to the MyHSSE, but we are going to tell you how you can entry into the MyHSSE. That also we are going to tell at the end of the session. Then we will open it for the open it for the discussions. So that's what is our agenda for the today, and we'll also have a ergo break after 1 hour of the session. So coming to the HSE movement, actually, as I was telling that we are going to give you the brief background of this session. This is the background how we are why we are conducting this session, because this is one of the KPC recommendation that to implement the BBS recommendation, BBS program in all the KOC rigs, and this recommendation came from the KPC investigation of one of the incidents. Actually, on 4th June 2021, in the night around 1:35 a.m. in one of the rig, 2 roustabouts and a forklift operator were assigned to prepare the casing joints and the catwalk. I'm sure many of you are aware of this particular incident which I am talking, but there are so many new people have joined our business partners recently. For the benefit of them, as well as to refresh our minds with this particular incident, unfortunate fatality incident, which happened almost 9 months or so, 9 months back. We just want to highlight that particular incident and what are those recommendations, how it is connected to the BBS. That's the whole purpose of this particular HSSE movement. So the forklift operator was pushing the casing joints on a pipe rack towards the catwalk. And as the casing joints were rolling, the injured person, the roustabout, positions himself in the line of the fire between the catwalk as well as the casing, which resulted in a crush injury. And of course, immediately rig operation was stopped and the safety meeting was stand-down meeting was conducted. And after administering the first aid on the rig, the injured person was transferred to the Jahara Hospital using the rig ambulance. The next day morning around 10 o'clock, the rig received information that the injured person was declared deceased. I'm going to briefly show you the picture of the enactment was done. So picture of the position of the forklift operator as well as the position of the IP he was here. And we are also going to see the video of this particular incident, how it happened exactly. It's a real-time video. It was recorded in our systems there. But this is the forklift operator, direction of the casing pushing towards the catwalk side. Unfortunately, IP injured person was here. Another roustabout was standing here. So, but the video clearly helps you in understanding how the incident happened. I'm just showing the video. It is not a sound. There is no sound in this video, but just you see the movement of the forklift as well as the casing pipes as well as the roustabout here. Okay, it's a very brief video. So I'm sure many of you already seen this video. For the benefit of others who are not seeing, we just wanted to refresh our minds. Unfortunate incident which occurred in the month of June 2021. As per KOC HSE procedures, the investigation committee has been formed, and the committee went to the rig site and did the interviews of the so many people who were witness of the incident, as well as reviewed all the documents and the procedures available, and came up with two critical factors. Okay, the critical factor one was injured person went into the line of fire between the catwalk and casing to pick up the wooden plank. And the critical factor 2 is related to the forklift operator pushing the casing close to the catwalk. So these two critical factors were identified by the investigation committee, and there are some, we have the KOC has got a investigation procedure as per the, CLC chart, we have it. So as per that, the root causes have been identified, and it came up to the root causes under the categories of the behavior, engineering design, control of the work, tools and plant and equipment, standard practice and procedures, and the communication. You see the gentlemen, there is a behavior is coming on the top, which we are going to address today, in fact. So these are the key root causes have been identified. From these root causes, there are 3 specific recommendations and 5 general recommendations. Of course, these have been circulated among all the rigs, all the business partners, and everybody has been provided the training. But I'm just giving you the brief background of these particular specific recommendations. One is related to the procedures, running casing procedure, and another one is related to the engineering control, because the forklift was pushing, but there was no control there. So there is a recommendation to have the stoppers on that. I'm sure every rig has already got that. And the third recommendation is related to the today's topic, today's session, which is behavior. Train all drilling crew with behavior-based safety program and implement the same in all drilling rigs. And controlling team, of course, our operations group will take the appropriate disciplinary actions. That's different story as such, but the point number A is related to the behavior-based safety program, which we are going to talk. There were some general recommendations also. There were 5 general recommendations. One is related to the hard hat with the reflective strips for drilling crew. Another one is related to the enforcing the incident reporting. Unfortunately, this particular incident was reported very late. So, and there is another recommendation related to the restudy the HSE roles and responsibilities within our directorate, and to ensure the contractors complete investigation, root cause analysis within the reasonable time space specified by the controlling teams. And the 5th one is related to the appropriate control measures for managing the fatigue. Okay, so again, the fatigue is one of the issue has been identified. So general recommendation came related to that. But today we are going to talk about the mostly the behavior issues. And there were some lessons learned also, like a line of fire hazards to be avoided, establishing clear communication by roster boards and forklift operator, strictly implement the controls highlighted by the JSA, and all incidents shall be reported strictly to the ECC. And before we go into the BBS, I was talking to my colleague, Mr. Reddy, that I want to present this particular slide specific, because we are today, the participants are the tool pushers as well as the rig superintendents. So they are the higher management, in fact. As a management, they expect only 2 things: incident-free drilling operations and the timely completion of the drilling operations. But as a line management, we need to ensure at the bottom all these things, to achieve incident-free drilling operations as well as to timely completion of the drilling operations. We will be focusing on those 2 things. But those 2 things will not come just like that. Okay, those 2 things will not come just like that. You need to work very hard, particularly the leadership and supervision, ensuring the equipment integrity, compliance to the procedures. Business partners, you have so many subcontractors, they need to be involved in that. The communication, crew welfare, as well as fatigue and other things are there. The planning and its compliance, accountability for stop work authority, compliance to contract clauses, effective utilization of the resources, rig crew engagement and motivation, training and competency of the crew. And again, the most important thing is the monitoring, HSE audits and inspections. So many issues are there underneath which we don't see it actually. So we need to focus on all these things to achieve incident-free drilling operations as well as the timely completion of the drilling operations. So you can always see crew welfare, the behavior issues, and so many things are there underneath. So before I go into the BBS background, just want to ask Mr. Reddy, anything else you want to highlight on this particular incident, Mr. KDC, related to the KDC 47, because you are participating in the KPC audit teams also. Mr. Reddy?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Shukan. Good morning to you all. Myself Reddy, safety specialist from HSE E&D. Yeah, whatever you explained is correct. And regarding that recommendation on BBS implemented, it is related to the KOC BBS program implementation. So that's
yes.
just I want to make it clear.
Yes. Yeah, what Mr. Reddy is trying to tell that our business partners already having a similar programs like KOC BBS, but today we are focusing on KOC BBS, and whoever is not having the BBS programs, they should implement this. Whoever is having also, they should complement our program with their program and meet the requirements. So with that, I just want to give a brief background of the BBS program in our directorate, and we'll hand over to our guest today. So this particular program was a concept of our safety team back in 2019, and they were management approved for the implementation in few directorates. One of the directorate, our E&D directorate, has been chosen for that purpose, and we established a series of focal points like a BBS coordinator, BBS site implementation facilitator, BBS trainer program, and BBS, those sessions are already conducted during the 2019. Why the delay means, you know very well, the COVID-19 pandemic. When we introduced this, when we completed this BBS pilot in 6 rigs we have selected, and those pilots have been completed successfully. And again, the pandemic came and we could not expand to the other rigs. Unfortunately, the incident happened, and KPC also recommended to go for all the rigs. That's why we are here. Now we are going to show you how this KOC BBS training program works. And today we have with us our senior engineer from the Occupational Health and Safety team, Mr. Tariq Al-Aslawi. He is a very experienced professional in the health, safety, and environment field. Mostly he worked in our drilling operations in associated activities. So he understands what are our issues, what are our concerns, what are the problems we face in the rig site. So he's the best person to deliver our BBS program today. So with that, I would like to invite Mr. Tariq. I'm going to show you your slides, Tariq. So please, go ahead and open your mic, Mr. Tariq.
Good morning. Thank you for your introduction. I appreciate it. And in continuation of your introduction, Ashok, thank you so much. Appreciate everyone's efforts, which are comprehensive, like you showed in the iceberg model.
Yes.
Behavior-based safety is a portion where this effort is complemented, since most incidents or many of the incidents are related to an action by a worker. So I will many have background on behavior-based safety, and I will show the mechanics of how we do it in KOC. As you know, this has been a pilot at 3 assets and directorates so far. This year, 2022-23, will be a 4th pilot. This program is evolving. The bulk of the program is being implemented already. Each asset or directorate is continuing to make behavior-based safety observations. And these are observations. Also, when people do behavior-based safety behavior-based safety observations, they are counted as SOCs. So we're in a transition now with this pilot. It's expanding until it becomes, we hope, when the decision is made, to be full-fledged across the whole company, involving KOC and all the business partners.
I have given the control to you, Tariq. You can change the slides yourself.
Thanks. Okay.
Just use the cursor buttons on the keyboard. Yeah, perfect. It's changing.
Okay, great. So
I
this,
request others to close the cameras, please. Somebody's opened the camera, so we don't want a distraction during the presentation. We will have the cameras open discussion afterwards, but just close the cameras now, please. Go ahead, Tariq.
Thanks. So in the beginning, what is behavior? Behavior is an observable act. It's something we do. It's something that you can take a picture of. And that is expected of you when you do a behavior-based observation, to go where the action is, where people are doing the work. So the purpose of the behavior-based safety program at rig site is to eliminate the at-risk behaviors. Of course, before an injury happens, there will be a failure with, for example, equipment or in the management system and procedures in the JSA. But in the end, at-risk behavior is a factor, and this last factor, at-risk behavior, is what we want to eliminate, to reduce the at-risk behaviors and increase the safe behaviors. So this was shown. So what we see are a fatality or lost time, medical treatment, first aid. What we want to do in the behavior-based safety program is to address the at-risk behaviors that are underwater, that are underneath in this diagram. So at-risk behaviors are a contributing factor to most incidents across our operations. So in implementing this program, you as observers are proactive in addressing these at-risk behaviors. So behavior is often the final step in an injury sequence. When all else fails, at the end, it's an unsafe act that results in an accident or injury. This is where your role as observers are, to eliminate this final unsafe act and turn it into a safe act, so that we do not have these incidents or injuries. So why we want to look at behavior? Because it's proactive. When you do an observation, you are doing a proactive measure, since behavior is a common way leading to injury. When you do an observation, when you perform an observation, we can measure these observations, and we can measure, since behavior is observable, you can see it, you can make an observation. We can look at these behaviors. What are they? Line of fire, working at height, and so we may manage these behaviors. So in managing these behaviors, we seek to identify the barriers, why people are not working safely. So we want to eliminate those barriers so that more people have safe actions, safe behaviors. So, you know, people in the field, they will think this way. Maybe will it be easier to do the job my way? Or will I get hurt if I do it this way? Will anyone notice? Will I finish faster, get the job done faster? Or so people think in ways that may be outside of rules or procedures, or their perception. They think in different ways in perceiving the risk. So there are three categories of behaviors where work can be done safely, where people are trained, they're experienced, they know the procedure, they know the rules, and they have the resources, so they can work safely, and they perceive the risk correctly. Sometimes work is difficult to be done safely, where you need extra efforts, where a procedure is there, and the procedure is there for a reason, um, or they may not have the right tools, and they have to go and obtain equipment in order to do the job safely. And the third is where work cannot be done safely, where maybe the worker does not know, he does not have the experience, he did not get the training, he does not have the equipment, tools to perform the job safely. So that's how behavior is categorized, and that's what we want to look into in order to increase the number of safe behaviors in the field. So people, when they work unsafely, they have their reasons. You talk to them, they will tell you. And you, as an observer, when you make an observation in the field, a behavior-based observation, it's your job to find out why these unsafe behaviors are occurring. And through analysis of behaviors, we can remove these barriers in order to enable people to work safely. So the differences between traditional safety and so we thought that there's a different approach is required. So instead of being compliance-based, the safety should be risk-based. So we remove the barriers to safe behavior versus enforcing compliance, and bottom up. It starts from you. You are in the field and you help others to find solutions, and it builds buy-in when everyone participates, and it motivates participation, and it's positive since nobody is penalized or punished. People will be we intend to reward people for their safe behavior, and observers best observations that are made. So it involves rewarding, and it's proactive, so we do preventive actions, and it's focused on people and processes, not numbers. So we are like you, we are interested in the quality of observations and not just counting the numbers of observations that are made. So the difference between for BBS and SOC, what is there in KOC, SOC, and we are introducing BBS. So BBS focuses on critical behaviors. In the checklist you will have. SOC is wider, whereas behavior-based safety BBS is the behaviors on the checklist have been identified as the behaviors that have higher risk in KOC, and we focus on those critical behaviors. And so that way you reinforce safe behavior. So you give immediate performance feedback and ask for suggestions from workers in the field on how to work more safely. And of course, you announce your observation. You tell the worker what you are doing when you are doing performing an observation, and only trained observers can make behavior-based safety observations. So you hear about 90 people here now. You can do behavior-based safety observations since you have you are here to understand the process, and it's employee owned. That means you know, your input will make it go forward, because the outcome in the end is that when we perform behavior observations and we get feedback and we want to increase the number of safe behaviors in the field on rig sites, this is the idea. The process involves removing the barriers to safe behavior, so that everyone finds it easier, where employees choose to behave safely. By making these observations, we are removing barriers, so enhancing the safe behavior. And about culture, when more people participate in safety activities at all levels, there's more involvement and ownership, and where discussion of safe behavior occurs in the workplace, this increases awareness, where we understand the effects of behavior, why behavior occurs in a certain way, what drives people to work safely versus unsafely. This is the behavior-based safety process, and increase personal responsibility for safety. So we take action to improve safety in the field and prevent unsafe acts. Okay. So observation procedures. So we go to where critical work is being done, where the action is. Remember, we said at the beginning, what is a behavior? A behavior is an act where you can take a picture of it. It's where the action happens. So you set a good example by wearing, of course, all your PPE, and to stand in a safe spot out of the line of fire, to observe openly by introducing yourself, and you may ask the observee if they know about the behavior-based safety process. If not, you may explain this process and show the critical behavior checklist. If there is a behavior-based safety card that you have. If not, you may print the checklist. The checklist, on one side there are the observations that you will look at. On the back there's a definition of each individual item on the checklist. So you're not going to write the observee's name because we don't need that unless that observee, that worker, had 100% safe behavior. They may be rewarded. Only then you ask the observee that we will write your name on the card since you have performed 100% safe behavior, and you have a chance to be rewarded if chosen for best safe behavior, for example. So you may do an observation for about 5 to 10 minutes. You do a big picture observation. You look and evaluate all the hazards on the location. And then do a little picture observation where, since you are familiar with the checklist, it's important that you are familiarize yourself with the checklist and the definitions of each item on the checklist so that you mark them correctly. So they are a checklist of critical behaviors. These are the most behaviors that cause injury in KOC and across the field based on our analysis. We do periodically review the at-risk behaviors that are happening in the company, and that checklist may be modified in the future depending on the changing risk. But for behavior-based safety observation, now we stick to the checklist of critical behaviors. So you write your comments immediately after making an observation. So when you write, be specific, write only what you see. What you saw the worker do that was safe or at risk. Be specific. So you write what you see. And then there's the what you see, and then there's the why. You ask the worker why he did the work that way. So when writing the why, you write what they told you. So two parts. The what is what you saw the worker do, and the why, you ask the worker why you did the work that way. So these are the two things that you write. So when the worker says why I worked this way, why I am excavating this way, or in the line of fire, not in the line of fire. So do not guess why. Do not make assumptions. It's pretty straightforward. Just what you saw, and the why comes from the worker himself. If he has 100% safe behavior, you may note down his name, and I mean his name, his employee ID that he has, and the contract number and controlling team. These 4 things that you need if he has 100% safety behavior, so that in the future we may have a chance, if this observation is chosen, that he may be rewarded. Rewarded means through either recognition, through a certificate, or a gift, maybe, or a reward. And finally, your comments will have to be entered in my HSE electronically, so that all observations, whether safe or 100% safe behavior or unsafe behavior, may be compiled in my HSE. So if the worker, the observation is unsafe, the worker's name is of course not recorded. So challenges when doing observations. So an observation is a snapshot in time. It's a picture of what is happening at the moment. By collecting your observations, for example, more than 90 people you are here, if you all go and make observations at once, a more complete picture, a bigger picture is created when all your observations are done and the data is combined for analysis, for us to analyze. As you know, people who are more experienced may not see at-risk behavior because they are accustomed to doing to working in a certain way. On the other hand, you will have new workers who may not have adequate awareness or experience of what is safe and at risk. So you have different people working in the field. So it's important that you provide a quality observation, or you can do that when you are familiar with the critical behaviors on the checklist and their definition on the back. We just have a sentence or two, a couple of the definitions of all the behaviors on the checklist. So it's important to familiarize yourself with that. So the behavior to be observed, yeah. You can see like at the top of the checklist, you have the observer's name. That's your name, your ID, the location you are, which rig it is, the date and time of observation, the type of work observed, contract number, name of contractor, and controlling team. This is a basic observation about yourself, the date, time, location, and which company where you are doing the observation. Next is the checklist. So this shows the line of fire. For example, they are in categories where of body position, body use, tools, equipment, procedure. So in body position, very common is line of fire, for example. At the back of the checklist, you will find a definition of line of fire. You'll find a definition of pinch points, of eyes on the path, lifting, lowering, etc. So each of these have a definition in the pack at the back of the card, a couple of a sentence or two. It's a brief, concise definition where to help you identify if the behavior was safe or unsafe. So then continuation of the checklist. So this is all the checklist, and then you have these are available for you to understand the precise definition of what you are marking on the checklist. So that does a person place all parts of their body so that they will not be pinned, crushed, struck, sprayed, or trapped in the line of fire. A definition of line of fire, and as you can see here is an example. Most of you are familiar with this auger incident. Also this incident of the welder cutting casing. Examples of line of fire incidents. Also a line of fire incident where the hook, the top portion, the tubing snapped out of the hook. Also an
Yeah,
example of line of fire.
This happened in one of the water well rig. They were pulling out from the tubes. The top portion of the hook got detached and the tube directly fell on the electrician who was working near the well. So he was exactly on the line of fire.
Yes.
Please go ahead. Yeah.
Thanks. And you know, also in KOC life-saving rules, line of fire is there. There are 10 KOC life-saving rules, and important one, very important one, where people either stand under the load or stand in front of the path of the forklift, where there is where they are lifting casing, for example, and people must understand line of fire where there is potential energy and he is standing in the way. So understanding these behaviors and the critical behavior checklist can people may avoid these hazards and protect themselves. Finally, we are in the end, we all want to make work as safe as possible for everyone, and more definition, like another definition of pinch point. Does the person keep body parts from area between moving and stationary parts that are closing or may close together? So you are familiar with many of these, and these are definitions provided in the checklist. I don't think for your experience, of course, that I need to read all these definitions, but three-point contact for body position, these definitions are lifting with your legs and serve your back. Yeah, so I won't go through all these definitions. They are available for you to read at the back of the checklist in order to clarify. But we are just going through the mechanics of how we do behavior-based safety in KOC. So more definitions about clearance certificate, body use, mechanics, tools, equipment, and vehicle. So all these definitions are available for you. Driving also is on the checklist. And also some of the critical behavior checklist items are available in the 10 KOC life-saving rules. Also, excavation work is there, hazardous communications on the critical behaviors checklist. I don't need to read all the definitions on the checklist. But so we come to conducting the actual behavior-based safety observation. What you as observers have to do when making a observation in the field. So these things are available to you. You are aware of the behavior, whether it's at risk. You may ask the worker if they agree if the behavior was at risk, and sometimes the worker can correct this behavior to make it to work safely. So it becomes a safe behavior. And you may ask the worker if he has a solution to address the at-risk behavior. You may get the person talking about why the behavior is safe or at risk. You may ask him, is there a reason why you do it this way? And you may agree with the worker on working safely. Since the worker is out there in the field, they know, they have ideas and input on how to work safely. You can make suggestions to the worker if necessary, and ask for commitment to work safely in the future. Comments help identify, the comments you write as observers help identify barriers. So as we said previously, write only what you see. What you see the worker did, that's what you write on the checklist. And then record what people tell you, what the worker says, why he worked that way. So you do not guess or assume, you seek to understand why the worker worked that way, depending on what he said. So when writing an observation, even if it is not 100% safe, some observations will be 100% safe. And you record that. It's a 100% safe observation, and you record the details of the worker. So that he may be rewarded in the future. But even if the observation that you are making is not 100% safe, you will find that worker, you may write one safe behavior comment, because our job is also to reinforce safe behavior, even when making an unsafe observation on your card. You will find that he did do a safe behavior, and you may record that. So that way, when discussing with the worker, you are reinforcing safe behavior. You can say that I see you are complying with your PPE, you're wearing all your PPE, or you were lifting with your legs, not your back, or you were making 3-point contact when going up the stairs, or you're away from the line of fire during when the crane was lifting. And also, at-risk, when making at-risk or unsafe behaviors, you must write a comment. So you write what you saw the worker do, and when you ask him why, you write what he says. And the most important part of the observation, to go beyond the mechanics of writing what you saw and why he worked that way, when writing an at-risk behavior, is for you to analyze what is contributing to the risk, what are the barriers. So this is a unique difference in behavior-based safety rather than SOC, is that for you to uncover the root causes. You know, maybe the worker will say, I was not trained, or I was new, or a veteran will say, I've been working like this for so many years. So it's up to you to remove barriers by recommending training tools to be provided to comply with JSA, for example. So we are actually interested in quality data to develop a meaningful action plan. We rely on you as the observer. We rely on your experience to uncover after writing the what you saw and why he worked that way by writing what he said, the unique and important part is your analysis of the root cause of the underlying factor of why he worked that way, why he worked unsafe, at risk, and to provide the recommendation. Sometimes workers, since they are in the field, they are so experienced. They know what the recommended actions should be. They could tell you. So when making an observation, you mark a safe observation, and then you mark at risk or unsafe behaviors. So you note those, and after reading the comments, do you agree with the behavior? When you capture the what and why, you will make a few observations. As I said, the important part is after the what and why is your underlying, when you uncover underlying causes and provide recommendations, either from your experience or the worker in the field who has his own experience or recommendation to contribute. So a good comment paints a picture for someone who is not there to understand what was observed and why it is the employee, based on what he said, performed that behavior. So a comment is specific to one behavior. So the what is describe the job or task being done, and describe what the person was doing, the behavior that made them safe or at risk. And then the why is from the employee. You ask for the reason why, and then listen. Only write what the person tells you. So this is an example of a comment where someone of an observation that you may make. So observe the person standing under a load suspended from the crane. So this is what you saw. I saw him standing under a load suspended from the crane. And when you ask him why he was standing there, do you realize that you are at risk, you are in the line of fire where the load, may fall. So he may say, I'm not aware of line of fire. He's a new employee and has not undergone awareness of line of fire hazards. So there's agreement reached here in this circumstance between yourself, the observer, and the observee, that now he understands the hazard and risk for this particular situation. However, the contractor should conduct an analysis of the incident and address it with an action plan, such as to like E&T campaign that was done a couple of years ago on line of fire hazard, on a campaign on line of fire. So another example is observed rustabout assisting in placing pipe on the ground with fingers placed in pinch points between the pipe and the ground. This is what you saw as the observer. When you ask the person working, he will say, there is no other way to handle this job. So with your experience, you can say that the person understood the hazard after you explained for that situation. However, the contractor, that company, for example, should address the requirement to perform the job in a safe way. And so you, according to your experience or the worker that the observee's experience, you will recommend. This is the important part where your experience comes in through by providing the recommendations. You may say provide alternate grip points and provide suitable tools that avoid the need to bring fingers within pinch points. This is another example of an observation. A third example is when you go, you see a mechanical technician climbing the rig floor stairs without holding the handrail, without 3-point contact. And so when you ask the observee, the worker, he will say, for example, he had to carry tools in one hand and spare parts in the other hand, and he was not aware of going up the stairs with 3-point contact. Upon your feedback, when you speak to him, agreement is reached. It's not necessary that agreement is reached, but when you talk to the worker in this circumstance, the worker agreed. He understood that it's hazardous and it's at risk in this particular situation, and you recommend that the contractor conduct an awareness session or awareness on 3-point contact for all crew, and to provide alternate means for carrying parts or tools up to the rig floor. Another example. You see, when you uncover these behaviors, these actions, you help removing the barriers to safe behavior. What you want in the end is for people to choose to work safely in the field. You increase their awareness about line of fire, not to stand in front of a forklift where casing is being pushed along across the racks, or standing under a load that is being carried, etc. And in the end, it's for us to perform analysis and to address these behaviors which contribute to most KOC incidents. A fourth example is an example of
Tariq, can we have a break, Tariq? So
sure.
we can continue after 5 minutes.
Sure.
So
yes.